So we are at week 8, the final home stretch of this class. And so we did a bunch of videos. We had a ton of videos this week actually, and then did a lot of chapters too, which was nice. So the first video that I want to talk about was clarifying transfer and how it impacts what we think students understand. And I really liked this video. I thought it was really cool. And then it was talking about 4 cognitive moves to transfer. And it said that the first one was to realize what the question was asking. The second one was to infer the most relevant prior learning, like what you've learned before, and then like from the alternatives. So you'll take the most relevant information from the alternatives approaches, and then you'll try and approach on your own, and then you'll make changes if needed, and then adapt their answers to, what you're supposed to get. And I think that's used a lot in math because you're always having to try new approaches and really haven't used a lot of transfer in like math and science classes, I think. And then another part of the video was the language of meaning, and it said it was kind of like explaining what you know and not just memorizing the knowledge, which this video said that if you can only recall or like state what, like if someone asks you a question, you can really only like give out like a definition, that you really don't know what you're talking about. But I tend to differ on that opinion, but I think that if you can recall it, then you can probably pretty much understand what you're saying. But that was not the popular opinion of the video that I watched. So the next one was students can learn by explaining, and then it was talking about how research suggests that students in preschool / like elementary schools tend to learn more when they the questions turn back on them, which I used to always, just when I was little, like I would always explain to my grandparents or like my parents what we were going over, and it helped me to memorize it. And then it's talking about how students who can verbally explain how they arrived at their answer tend to catch themselves when they're wrong, and they can also generalize what they learn to other subjects better than students who aren't really ever asked to explain themselves and how they got to their answer. And then there was a person named Deidre Ginther, and I really hope I pronounced that right. If I'm not, I'm really sorry. But she said, pretty sure it's a girl, she said that teachers introducing a concept can improve the students' understanding by giving examples of close comparisons, moving to less closely connected analogies, and then asking kids to explain how concepts are related. And then the last video was it was the Y transfer video by Education Week, and it's talking about 2 different types of transfer, near and far. And it said near was like skills from one area to another situation. So the example they gave was the essay skills from English to a social studies paper, which, those are both really near because they're both, well, in my high school they were always in the same hallway, but this isn't talking about like distance, but and then far transfer was talking about applying what you are learning to a completely different context, and the example to that was chess players using strategies to understand a political campaign, which I've never even thought about something like that before, but that's kind of cool, I guess you can do it. And it said far was just really critical. And so yeah, those are some of the highlights from this week, and I'm ready for next week.